Okay, so namaste and a very good morning to all of you. I am Rishali Potnas Damle, co-founder of the The Project, and I welcome you to this online event, Yoga Yatra, the journey of yoga as a way of life. Now, as we are all very well aware, 21st of June was recognized as the International Day of Yoga (IDY) by the United Nations General Assembly (UNGA) in December 2014. Now, initiated by the Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, IDY is today and actively observed all around the world. The main purpose of IDY is to highlight the immense potential of yoga to enhance the physical, psychological, and emotional aspects of well being. The event encourages new advances within the field of yoga, such as development of specific protocols, addressing lifestyle diseases, and research in developing potential productivity enhancing tools. Now, IDY has not only boosted yoga's popularity, but also expanded its geographical presence by inspiring its adoption in several new territories. In keeping with the objectives laid out for IDY, India Tourism Mumbai, the regional office of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India in the Western region, has taken several initiatives to spread the awareness of yoga through various engaging activities for the past week. The 7 days of virtual events include a mix of awareness and engagement programs that can be accessed from the convenience and safety of home and other secure places. As a part of this schedule, India Tourism Mumbai, along with its curation partner, the The Project, brings you Yoga Yatra, the journey of yoga as a way of life, a virtual tour, an experiential pranayama session by Maharashtra's Kaivalyadham Yoga Institute at Lonavala. Kaivalyadham is one of the oldest and the most pioneering yoga institutes in the world. We have with us today Mr. Venkateshan, the Regional Director, India Tourism, and his team. Mr. Venkateshan has been engaged in destination marketing for a while with active roles in North and South American markets. His specialty is marketing and development niche tourism products. His previous positions in the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, included handling international cooperation, information technology, publicity, and niche tourism. He has also coordinated and organized international and domestic events designed to develop tourism and promote Indian culture. As a co-team member of Incredible India, he has worked in a number of locations in order to fulfill responsibilities. The primary responsibility of this position was the development and marketing of India as a destination in USA, Canada, South America, the Caribbean, and Mexico, etc. So, in his present capacity as the regional director, Mr. Venkateshan handles matters relating to implementation of Government of India programs and policies for promotion of tourism in Western and Central region in coordination with the state tourism departments and stakeholders. So, I request Mr. Venkateshan to say a few words about India tourism, its activities, and this present program. So, Mr. Venkateshan, over to you.
Yeah, namaste and very good morning to all of you. A happy Sunday to all of you again. I would like to thank the Kavilya Dhama management, Subodh ji, Sudhir ji, for this special session on our Yoga Yatra, the journey of yoga as a way of life, and also the arranging for the virtual tour of Kaivalya Dhama. My special thanks to the team The Project for conceptualizing and coordinating the arrangements for this Yoga Yatra. On behalf of the India Tourism Mumbai, the regional office of Ministry of Tourism in the Western region, I welcome each of you present here and thank you for taking time to join this virtual event. This demonstrates the dedication and enthusiasm that each one of you has towards wellness. In fact, we know yoga is the established means to attain the wellness of body, mind, and soul. In fact, as a destination known for its age old wellness tradition, the International Day of Yoga, that is tomorrow, the June 21, is a big day for our wellness tourism industry also. In fact, we are all aware India gave yoga to the world, and we in India Tourism Mumbai are elated with the designation of 21st June as International Day of Yoga, and we have been observing it very religiously last six editions. And in fact, yoga and tourism have a mutually beneficial relationship which can strengthen the attractiveness and competitiveness of the destination, regions, and the country. In fact, yoga is increasingly an important element of the wellness tourism product, which India promotes in a big way, which is also in the USP of the Indian tourism product. And it helps us to create a distinctiveness in the crowded global marketplace. In fact, creating a strong relationship between tourism and yoga can therefore help destinations to become more attractive as well as more competitive as locations to live, to visit, and to work. And this is the seventh edition of the International Day of Yoga, and the enthusiasm of celebration has been sustained over the last year since its declaration. In fact, even with the pandemic situation, we are kind of not dampened, and the virtual engagements have been reaching uh, thousands of peoples across last almost starting from the 15th. So it was a week-long event that the India Tourism has produced. And we also understand the importance of controlled breathing and how it reduces stress, especially during this COVID times, and also how it allows to uh, boost our immune system. So, looking into this, we are privileged to associate here today with Maharashtra's Kaivalya Dhama Yoga Institute at Lonavala, one of the oldest and most pioneering yoga institutes in the world. We all know today there is an ever increasing need for stronger immunity and balanced, healthy lifestyle. In fact, I believe the sessions today with the pranayama, etc., will help us reach this objective. Uh, and as I told, no, it is a known fact that India, which is a very vast country and a rich nation, and known for its diversity and multicultural nature, has a legacy which is almost 5,000 year old, and it is thriving, and it's also an young democracy, very young democracy, as the travelers across the world seek different experiences from different destinations. It is essential for us as a country to create unique travel experiences on a emotional, physical, and intellectual, and even spiritual level. This is where yoga has a major thing, and today wellness tourism is gaining importance, and we believe after this unlock, after where will happen, there will be a good number of people traveling for seeking wellness and to get healthier and free from stressful life. With this, I would like to once again thank the management team from the Kavilya Dhamma for associating with India Tourism for this incredible yoga yatra, and I wish the participants will have a good time to get introduced to this one of the premier institutes, oldest institutes in the country, and also take the lessons from the pranayama sessions. Thank you once again, and I wish all of you in advance and happy International Day of Yoga. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Venkateshan. Thank you so much for that. And of course, Kaivalyadhama, founded by Swami Kuvalananda in 1924. Kaivalyadham is one of the oldest pioneering yoga institutes in the world. Based on the principles of philosophy and Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, it takes pride in teaching traditional yoga in its purest form with a unique perspective. Kaivalyadham, of course, is the first yoga institute to proactively conduct scientific research for demonstrating the benefits and uses of yoga for holistic well being. With 16 centers in India and abroad today, it imparts its yogic wisdom globally. So we have also with us today Mr. Subodh Tiwari, who is the CEO of Kaivalyadhama Yoga Institute. A little bit about Subodhji. He was born in Kaivalyadhama. He was initiated into spiritual practices by Swami Digambarji, the then director and spiritual head of Kaivalyadhama. Subodhji commenced his yoga journey, at the age of 6 under the guidance of his father, Sri O.P. Tiwari, a disciple of Swami Kubalananda. Subodhji started teaching yoga in 1993 and eventually decided to devote his life in the service of Kaivalyadhama. So ever since, Subodhji has been an integral part of Kaivalyadhama at various organizational and administrative levels. As the CEO of Kaivalyadhama since 2016, Subodhji's resolute efforts have been able to achieve Kaivalyadhama's mission. Subodhji aims to encourage yoga as a way of life across spheres of health, research, and education. He believes that yoga is not only doing, but also a state of being, and that effective practice of yoga can facilitate physical, emotional, spiritual well being for a holistic and meaningful life. I request Subodhji to please tell us a little bit about Kaivalya Dhama and his objectives before we move on to the next word.
Namaskar and pranams to all of you. I get you greetings from Kaivalya Dham, Lonavala in this lovely monsoon weather where I say everything grows, everything has the highest potential. I'm so happy that the Department of Tourism, Ministry of Tourism is tied up with the project and Kaivalya Dham, and we are able to reach the message of yoga on the occasion of this International Day of Yoga, which falls tomorrow, and that would be the 7th International Day of Yoga. Kaivalya Dham has been doing a lot of work in the field of yoga tradition and yoga science. So our simple effort is to keep yoga in its purity in form, to try and take this profound knowledge to as many people as possible, for them to have their own experiences. So since 1924, when Swami Kaivalyanandaji found Kaivalya Dham, the whole effort has been to disseminate this profound knowledge through the sources of the traditional texts and then re-verification through the scientific experimentation and scientific research. We are lucky here at Lonavala, where we have an 170-acre campus which houses research centers, which has the Govardhan Das 6-area College of Yoga and Cultural Synthesis. We also have a Kaivalya Vidya Niketan, a CBSE school. So in plans of Kaivalya Dham, a child can come in pre-primary and leave Kaivalya Dham after completing the PhD. So that's the possibility which we have here. I would just like to say that yoga is an experiential science. We together on this occasion are making an effort to share some of the knowledge which has come over the centuries in its most authentic form and inspire all the individuals who are participating in this program to start to practice. Because as I say, yoga is an experiential science and understanding is important, but experience is of the most important dimension. The sessions today focus both on understanding the philosophy and also on the practice aspect. The times are special today. For a year and a half, we have been given an opportunity. While there is difficulty in the outside world, I think we have been provided an opportunity to build our inside world, to be with our own self, which probably we had forgotten for some time. So let us make use of this opportunity given to us, delve deeper within ourselves, discover ourselves, and I hope that sooner than later we would be able to welcome those who have joined from outside India to this incredible India, and for those who are in India to this incredible Kaivalya Dham. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Subodhji, for that. Kaivalya Dhamma truly has done a lot of progress in the field of yoga. The, the entire extent of yoga as theory and experiential knowledge is available at Kedham. Thank you, Subodhji and Mr. Venkateshan, for commencing this virtual tour for us. Kaivalya Dhamma is located, of course, in the serene and spectacular Sahyadri mountain ranges of Lonavala in Maharashtra. In the midst of scenic, lush, green, pristine landscape, Kevaladhama enjoys a soothing climate and pleasant weather all around the year. The serene vicinity also attracts a variety of birds, wild animals, and butterflies for nature lovers. Let us take a quick look at the campus with this video. Wow, that's a lovely, lovely campus, and the stay looks so comforting and homely too. Must be beautiful in the monsoons as well. But Kevaladhama is much more than that. The tranquil environment offers the perfect setting for the practice of yoga as a way of life through its three-dimensional approach to yoga across health, education, and research in yoga. So let's go through this next tour to see exactly how.
7 ways towards good health in 7 days. 7 days of healing lifestyle to fight ailments and bounce back in good health with Kaivalya Dhamma. Kaivalya Dhamma is renowned for its integrated approach to yoga therapy with its scientific approach. Individuals come to us suffering from a wide range of ailments or just to rejuvenate themselves. We design a specific program for all individuals which is known to be most effective in providing relief.
First, pristine environment.
The campus is spread over 120 acres of lush green gardens and pathways. With over 100 variety of trees, medicinal plants, the gardens also host numerous birds and wonderful flowering plants. Just being in nature and in an oxygen-rich environment helps heal the body while reducing stress and calming the mind. Medical protocol. A medical checkup is the first and the foremost activity, and pathology tests are carried out in-house if required. A prescription for asana, pranayama, and kriya practices, plus naturopathy and a special diet are established. Daily routine. Your stay will include asana classes and holistic treatments. The whole program also includes walks, informal lectures, discussions, and documentary films on related subjects.
Swami Kovalananda is the founder of Kaivalya Dham. This was in 1924.
Ayurvedic treatments. Treatment options are varied and can include panchakarma, yoga, herbal medicines, massage therapy, mud packs are also some of the various treatments offered as a part of healing process.
And the most important thing I found is that you have a single therapist. You know, if you take the Ayurveda program, I have a single therapist with whom I develop a relationship. She develops a relationship with my body, how my personality is, and is able to, I think, adjust how she's going to deliver that particular prescribed procedures for me.
Naturopathy. Aside from massages and hydrotherapy, there is nutrition and dietary advice, herbal medicines, hydrotherapy, physical therapies such as a massage, acupressure, acupuncture, and other holistic treatments on offer. Further, nourishment and nutrition. All meals are prepared in a sattvic manner and are tailored to suit your dietary and nutritional needs. At Sattva the Cafe, you can avail of fresh cold-pressed juices and other healthy treats. Last, but certainly not least, our staff and the extended team go out of their way to make sure you are well looked after and that your stay is made as comfortable and homely as possible.
All the people here, whether it is somebody who's serving you food or your therapist or the doctors or the administrator, they all seem to be coming from a set of values where service seems to be at the center of all that they do. Seva, service, and making sure that as long as you are here, you are experiencing something extraordinary.
If you undertake yoga with the right spirit and comply with all the instructions given during your stay, we know that you will find relief from your problems, you will feel totally rejuvenated and have the opportunity to open up to new horizons to enjoy your life to the fullest. Welcome to Kaivalya Dhamma for a 7-day life-enhancing healing program. For more details, please visit our website www.kdham.com or drop us an email with your questions or queries at bookings@kdham.com. 7 ways.
So it's amazing how 7 days of yoga can transform one for life. It seems almost unreal, but it is true. The amazing settings in the midst of the Sayatris, the wisdom and tradition of ancient India all come true here. We have here tributes by some very well known people. Let's take a look.
नमस्कार, मैं रघुवीर यादव हूँ।
Hi, my name is Firoz Abbas Khan.
Hello, I'm Malishka.
Namaste. Hi everyone, I'm Neha Dhupia.
I'll tell you one thing, that this has been a transformation for me. Of course, I did come with some expectations, but what I experienced here was almost transformational. I never knew that this is what's going to happen to me in such a short period of time. All the people here, whether it is somebody who's serving you food, or your therapist, or the doctors, or the administrator, they all seem to be coming from a set of values where service seems to be at the center of all that they do. Seva, service, and making sure that as long as you are here, you are experiencing something extraordinary.
Going to Kevalia Dham, which is so close to Mumbai, just before the lockdown started, changed that perspective in the sense it is safe. It is exactly what you're doing. It's like being in home. Like if you have 15 members in your house and you've got to stay together with them, it's like exactly like that I feel, except that you have more space. So somehow you're naturally socially distanced, and at the same time, you know, you're doing what you do. I've climbed trees and swum in the lake and, you know, made friends. And so you're also cleaning your system as you stay here. It's definitely not a Goa. But then you think about it, do you need a Goa for 2 and 3 months at a stretch? No. So I love the fact that I get to come here, have like supreme peace of mind. You're learning more techniques for peace of mind, and you're working on your mind and body at the same time. No rush, no pressure. I completely loved Kevalia Dham. I'm so glad I found it. Thank you.
A big way of training your mind or to be mentally fit is to practice yoga. मैं कई सालों से yoga practice कर रही हूँ, and for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been going back. In fact, a few more. I've been going back to Kevalia Dham year after year to practice yoga there and also meditation. So what this amazing institute is doing right now is doing online courses where they talk about mental health, so and how to keep your mind fit more than anything else. So you know exactly where to find them. Kevalia Dham is the place. So good luck, guys. Look after yourselves. Stay home. Stay safe.
तो इतना सुकून, सारी चीज़ें हैं, इतनी ऊर्जा है यहाँ पे, इतनी एनर्जी है यहाँ इस जगह में कि मैं बयान नहीं कर सकता। मैं बताइए, मैं तो इस यहाँ की एनर्जी के पूरे दिन बोलता रहूँगा, आपके वो ख़त्म हो जाएगा हार्ड डिस्क जो है। आपकी बहुत सारी जिम्मेदारियां हैं, उन जिम्मेदारियों की हम जल्दी यहाँ नहीं आ पाता। नहीं तो मैं तो चाहूँ कि बस हर महीने में 1 हफ्ते के लिए चक्कर लगा जाऊँ यहाँ पे। तो ये बड़ा खूबसूरत सा एक ये ज़िंदगी जीने का सलीका है, नज़रिया है, तरीक़ा है, क्या क्या कहें, सब कुछ है यहाँ पर। तो हम यहाँ बार बार उलट के आते रहते हैं। अभी यहाँ योगा चल रहा हूँ, एक्सरसाइज चल रही है, बस इतना कहना चाहूँगा। और एक्सरसाइज में सिर्फ शरीर को बनाया जाता है, रूहानी वो जिस्मानी योग है, वो रूहानी नहीं है। यहाँ रूह पे काम किया जाता है, वहाँ जिस्म पे काम किया जा रहा है, सीधी बात है। पेड़ पौधे यहाँ के जितने भी ये जो जिस तरह के ये जो लोग यहाँ के स्टूडेंट्स और वो सब उसी माहौल में ऐसे हो जाते तो ऐसा लगता यही तो स्वर्ग है, और क्या चाहिए आपको।
This is amazing. Does it not make you think that of that gateway to good health? Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has today brought in increased awareness for immunity to build and boost long-term resistance. Now, this ancient Indian meditative and therapeutic practice has answers for that, for leading a fulfilling life. So, how can we do this? How can we make yoga a way of life? Mr. Venkateshan, maybe we can talk to you about your approach to yoga, or what do you think about yoga as a part of daily life?
Thank you, Vrishali. In fact, while I was talking about yoga as becoming an integral part of the wellness tourism product, in fact, I'm looking from the tourism perspective. Let me talk. You know, today there are so many seekers who are coming to India looking for this ancient knowledge, and also in search of who they are, or in search of inner peace. So this is where India is dotted with so many ashrams across the country, and it's one of the major USP, I would say, for India, which makes it stand up. While other countries may have various other products, but when it comes to spiritualism, when it comes to yoga, when it comes to Ayurveda, India is the one of the most top destinations for wellness tourism. So when I say wellness tourism, it's all about traveling for the primary purpose of achieving, promoting, and maintaining a maximum health and a sense of well-being. It's about being proactive in discovering new ways to promote a healthier and a less stressful lifestyle. So it's like finding a balance in one's life. So this is what is today's corporate world, and those who are stressed out, especially from the West, are looking towards India. And it is a very unique thing also. If you look at the trend today, this industry, the wellness tourism, is driving destination development, and it is also pushing a lot of investments in terms of facilities and hotels, etc. And this holistic approach to wellness tourism is now also creating a lot of major opportunities for destinations. Well, you must be thinking why I am selling all this, because I said, for us, while yoga philosophy is accepted across, and there are um, departments and ministries promoting this separately also, but for the tourism, it is one of the very key element. I have already spoken about this in my earlier address, where I said how yoga is important for the tourism. In fact, today we have so many resorts, spas, hotels, etc., and smaller businesses which are in the tourism industry promoting yoga and wellness. And there is a new market trend also, which will continue to highlight the importance of the authenticity and the real thing that goes into creating this wellness experiences. And this is where the institutions like Kevalya Dham, which have been there since 1924, stand out. In fact, a couple of years back, during one of these yoga day celebrations, we had a delegation from overseas tour operators who are promoting wellness to come and visit the facility. So once the normalcy returns and when travel happens and the institute opens, we will look at promoting the wellness centers around the western region, and we are documenting it. So it's a great opportunity. And even if you look at now, even the consumers are actively seeking out and purchasing holiday package, etc., especially once the lockdown opens. And this is where we see a new opportunity for tourists who like to convert their everyday lifestyle activities into a holiday experience also. Looking at the campus, it's amazing. Subodh detailed about how monsoon recreates everything, gives life to everything. So this is a great time also to promote monsoon tourism, which is again catching up in a big way. And this trend of having like the wellness products, etc., is also gives a destination an edge, as I told you. And India is, once again, I would like to stress this again and again. It's one of the important wellness destinations in the country because of its age-old systems of Ayurveda, yoga, Siddha, naturopathy, etc. And here I would like to really acknowledge the role played by the yoga institutions, the ashrams, and all those who are related with wellness to taking this beyond the shores of India. I know Kaivalya Dham has branches in Europe, it has in Europe, in US, etc. So it is the knowledge is spreading, and this is something which will be there and help us grow. So I think it's just not a one day event that we should focus. So for us, wellness tourism is kind of a activity that will be a sustained effort, especially in this post-COVID days. And as I told you, the Western India, especially the Lonavala area and in Maharashtra, we are privileged to have so many uh, such organizations and institutions who can give authentic experiences to the seekers and the travelers. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Venkateshan. Yeah, there's amazing a lot that can be done, and once the lockdown opens up, I'm sure there is a lot that can be, that people could look forward to. We now have Shri Sudhir Tiwari ji himself here. I'll just quickly introduce him and request him to talk about how yoga we can build it into our daily existence. So, Shri Sudhir Tiwari ji is born and brought up in Kavaladham. He teaches pranayama internationally. His initiation into yoga happened under the guidance of Swami Digambarji, a disciple of Swami Kuvalananda, and his father, Shri Om Prakash Tiwari ji. So, his goal is to present yoga not just as asanas, but as an experiential practice encompassing but not limited to yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, and meditational techniques, mantra yoga, techniques of Ishwar Pranidhana of Patanjali. So Shri Sudhirji has traveled all around the world, conducting workshops in theory and practice of yoga, asana, traditional pranayama, meditation, chanting, and Ayurveda. And with his familiarity of alternative Western medicine as well, he also correlates these disciplines. So Sudhirji, over to you.
Namaste. I'm happy to be here. I really wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. Is it about transformation or is it about pranayama? Please enlighten me about that.
The importance of well-being, its effect.
Now, Meghna just told me what the topic is, the effect of well-being on transformation. So, yoga's application towards the transformation of one's personality. So, I'll talk a little bit about it because I do know that there are questions already prepared. Number one, we need to be very clear that yoga is not a system of acrobatics or exercises. It is an experiential science. Practice leads to experience, and experience leads back to practice. And it is basically geared towards well-being of the human being. This well-being ends up being a stepping stone towards spirituality, which is essentially a journey towards discovery of self. But let us just limit ourselves to the concept of well-being. Well-being, we can generally equate it to health. Health equals well-being. Now, if we look at the conventional definition of health, the modern definition of health, it simply states that absence of disease equals health. However, the point of view of yoga is entirely different. Yoga does acknowledge that the absence of disease is a prerequisite for health, but it does not equal health. Absence of disease plus happiness, absence of disease plus a sense of well-being equals health. And this is what yoga tries to achieve. And when it comes to transformation, a lot of times, especially in the yoga circles, people who have read a lot and maybe don't practice much will talk about the experiences of Kundalini, experiences of vibrations. No. The first experience in yoga that people look for is, how have you transformed? So there's a difference between transformation and change. When you break an egg and make it into an omelette, that's change. But when a chicken comes out of the egg, that is transformation. Now, how does yoga achieve this transformation? So again, I know our time is limited. I will just tell you what yoga does to help us transform. And for those of you who know Rumi, who was a very effective Sufi seer, Sufi saint, in his last days, when he was dying, One of his students asked him, he said, "Sir, I have a few questions for you. Could you please answer them for me?" And Rumi said, "Of course, I will answer them for you." Then he said, "Master, what is fear?" So Rumi answered, "Not accepting the uncertainty in the future is fear. The moment you accept it, it becomes an adventure." The second question that the disciple asked Rumi was, "Master, what is anger?" Rumi's answer was, "Not accepting things which are beyond your control is anger. The moment you accept it, it becomes tolerance." Then the disciple asked Rumi, "Master, what is jealousy?" Rumi answered, "Not accepting good in others is jealousy. The moment you accept the good in others, it becomes inspiration." And finally, the disciple asked Rumi, "Master, what is hate?" And Rumi answered, "Not accepting people the way they are is hate. The moment you accept people the way they are, it becomes love." So the transformational journey in yoga is a journey from non-acceptance, rejection, ego, to acceptance. So we see the transformation from a point of view of the effect of yoga, the impact of yoga on our emotions, on our thoughts. Has the anger subsided? Has the jealousy subsided? Have the fears gone in us? So that is basically a prerequisite for well-being. So I will just stop at this now. And I think we have some questions that are coming our way.
Thank you, Sudhirji, for the explanation. So the questions I will ask you one by one. First question, how is yoga different from meditation? Do I have to meditate to do yoga?
That's a very good question, and that's a very valid doubt that a lot of people have. Now, yoga is a process and which ends at meditation. So yoga is not different than meditation. Meditation is a part of yoga. It is inherently yoga. Now, meditation is a progression. It begins with mindfulness, when you're aware of certain things. It transforms to focus. It transforms to concentration. And then it transforms to absorption, where you cannot differentiate the act and the actor. So that is meditation, which is an inherent part of yoga, not different. Meditation happens, you cannot do it, but when you do yoga, at some point, even for an instance, it will happen to you.
Next question, is there a best way to practice holistic yoga?
I mean, yoga is yoga. I don't see the difference, holistic or non-holistic yoga. Yoga is holistic. There is no non-holistic yoga. If there was anything that's non-holistic cannot be yoga. So yoga is holistic. And what was the second part of your question, Kaveri?
That's it, sir.
Yeah.
This is it. Next question, does yoga take me closer to spirituality?
Of course. What is spirituality? Let's not be conceptual and philosophical. Spirituality is basically trying to discover a journey towards self-discovery. And the moment you start asking few questions to yourself, am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I the intellect? Am I my car? Am I rich? Am I poor? Whatever you can perceive, you are not. So the moment these questions start appearing to you, you have entered the realm of spirituality. And yes, whether we like it or not, if you practice yoga sincerely, it will take you in that direction.
Next question. Is there a best time for yoga practice?
Of course. There's an ideal situation and there's a situation that we adapt. When it comes to yoga, number one thing that we need to remember, the ancient yogis, they said rigidity is an obstacle in yoga. Atyahar prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means rigidity. So they have said rigidity is an obstacle. So from that point of view, time-wise, we have scenarios that can be adapted. Ideally though, yogic practices should be done in the morning, empty stomach, after taking a shower. However, we do recognize that everyone has a busy lifestyle these days. So whatever time you choose is fine, but it has to be done empty stomach. That needs to be kept in mind. So ideally in the morning, before sunrise. However, if one has to adapt, then the only requirement then becomes a clean body and empty stomach.
Next question. Is transformation possible even as we move through a routine of busy work and family life?
Of course, transformation is definitely possible. The prerequisite, see, there's a difference, as I said, difference between change and transformation. When we make a change, transformation is bound to happen. For example, people want to transform their bodies. Nowadays, you see a craze, people want to lose weight. What do? You change your diet. That is a process. And when you change your diet, which promotes weight loss, then weight loss will happen. So change is the process, transformation is the end result. So even in the busy lifestyle, if we make certain common sense changes with regards to our lifestyle, our diet, our mind frame, then transformation is bound to happen.
Next question from the audience. Can I do the asanas by myself with the help of a yoga book, or is a guru required?
See, when it comes to asanas, the guru does not have to be with you every time you do asanas. A teacher, guru, instructor, whatever you may want to call it. Yes, a teacher is a good guide who will prescribe and show you and explain to you the asanas that you need to do. Then once the teacher says you're good to do it yourself, then you go and do it yourself. Just like the way when the doctor prescribes you the medicine, the doctor tells you, here's the medicine, here's how you take it, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, empty stomach, so on and so forth. You go home and do that. The same applies to asanas.
Next question. Do I need to be on a vegetarian diet to benefit from yoga? Is there an eating pattern for the yogic practices?
See, it depends on what your goal is. And again, we don't want to be really hardline when it comes to diet. But please keep in mind the diet, the food that we eat has an effect on our psyche. So, and again, look at the nature. So, tiger, lion, dog, what is their temperament? Anger is the fundamental of the temperament. Now you look at the vegetarian animals, cows, goats, calmness is the essence of the temperament. So yes, food does have an effect on the psyche. But there's again no hard line, no rigidity that you have to be a vegetarian to practice yoga. No, you can practice yoga regardless of what you eat. But when you do yoga, you develop an awareness based on what you eat, how you live, and inside then this awareness brings to a conclusion, okay, this food does this to me, this food does this to me, so maybe I should avoid it. So regardless, there's no hard and fast rule. Eat what you want, but you know what foods suit you, you know what foods don't suit you. You're the right judge. I'm no one to tell you what to eat, what not to eat.
Next question. Can yoga online transform my life?
Of course, as I said, depends on the attitude. See, I always give an example. If a pot, घड़ा होता है ना, if it's kept upside down, आप उसमें कितना भी पानी डालो घड़ा भरेगा नहीं, उसका मुंह ऊपर होना चाहिए. The mouth of the pot should be up, only then it will fill. So if you're ready to be transformed, and if you think there's a transformation needed, of course yoga will transform. But if you're oblivious to that fact, if you've turned your back to the sun, then, we will see. We don't know.
Next question. What is yoga according to you, sir?
That's a very good question. I don't like to, there's no better definition of yoga than the founder of Kaivalyadham, Swami Kovalananji, has stated. And it's a very simple, practical definition of yoga. He says, yoga is the integration of human personality. So human personality consists of body, mind, intellect, senses, emotions, and thoughts. A balance between this is yoga. Yoga is the integration of human personality, which makes a human being a better human being, so that he or she could grow, number one, contribute towards yourself, your family, your society, and your country, and the rest of the world. So this definition of yoga cannot be bettered. So in my view, this definition of Swami Kovalananji stands at par with anything else.
One question from the audience. Can religion come in the way of yogic practice?
No, religion and yoga has nothing in common. The people sometimes try to mix it. Yoga is a science by itself. And this is the point I try to make most of the time. In India, India has been the mother of different religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. Now, these religions may vary in terms of concepts, beliefs, and principles a little bit. For example, Hinduism believes in Vedas. Buddhism does not believe in the Vedas. So there are internal differences, but they all have accepted yoga as an integral part of self-development. So yoga and religion does not mix. Yoga is something, for example, if, it's just like comparing yoga to religion is like this. If a Hindu eats a burger, you cannot call the burger a Hindu burger. If a Christian eats a burger, you cannot call it a Christian burger, because burger is a burger. So anyone can do yoga because it's an independent science, not a religion.
Next question. What is the goal and essence of pranayama?
That's again a very good question. For all of you, you must know a very simple definition of pranayama is training of the breath. It has twofold objectives. One is to prepare a human being for a spiritual life, a dive into spiritual principles of life. The second one is to maintain health. In either way, one needs a calm of the mind. And yogic texts have very eloquently put it, chale vate, chale chittam. The rate of movement of the mind is proportional to the rate of movement to the breath. So once you train the breath, you can train the mind to stay calm. So that is the fundamental objective of pranayama. And then you can bring it out a little bit more. You can diversify it. If you go to the yogic texts, especially the 12th century texts, then they have health benefits to it based on Ayurvedic principle. They balance the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Modern research into pranayama shows that calms the mind, reduces the stress, reduces the blood pressure, helps our ability to concentrate, removes diseases, so on and so forth. But it has to be done in a traditionally prescribed way. Whatever pranayamic practices you do has to have a fundamental traditional basis.
Next question. Are there different types of pranayam? If yes, what are they?
See, there are different kinds of pranayamic practices. Yes, there are. Just again to extend that point a little bit, pranayamic practices are based on two breathing patterns. One is rapid breathing, one is slow breathing. Now, based on these, Hatha Pradipika outlines 8 pranayamic practices: Surya Bhedan, Ujjayi, Shitakari, Shitali, Bhastrika, Bhramari, Murcha, Plavani. So these are 8 pranayamic practices, of which Bhastrika is the rapid breathing. The rest are slow breathing practices. Now you go to ancient books that are from 2nd century, say Yagyavalkya Smriti. The pranayamic practices in Yagyavalkya Smriti, they name 2, Chandraanga Pranayam and Suryanga Pranayam. So different tech. You go to Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta also has 8 kinds of pranayam, but most clearly explained pranayamic practices come from Hatha Pradipika. The techniques are very clear. So the 8 pranayamic practices that I just enumerated are from Hatha Pradipika.
Last question. Sir, your thoughts on common yoga protocol?
I think it's a very well thought of protocol which technically standardizes the way everyone does yoga, keeps everyone on the same page, and whether you do it in its entirety or whether you do it in part, I think, and you continue to do it, it will definitely contribute towards one's health and one's well-being.
Thank you so much, Sudhirji. Great to hear from you about this. We truly tend to miss out on a lot of these things in routine life, overlooking so many aspects, while it can be just so simple to just start becoming self-aware. And the process is, of course, very important. The transformation will happen in due course. All we need to do is just stick to our routine. All aspects of life are just as important. And finally, the transformation just, I guess, depends upon us. Traditional Ashtanga Yoga, of course, recommends the practice of pranayama as one of the 8 limbs of yoga, the yamas and the niyamas. A pranayama refers to the conscious control or regulation of one's breath for purifying the body and cleansing the mind. Regular and disciplined practice of pranayama can bring immense positivity, increased clarity, renewed vigor, and heightened inner awareness in overall emotion, thought, and behavior, just as Sudhiji just told us. Let us hear from Yogacharya Sandhya Dikshit ji on the benefits of practicing pranayama. I will just introduce her, give a little background about Sandhya ji. Yogacharya Sandhya ji is one of the senior-most teachers at Kaivalyadham Lonavla. She has an experience of 39 years in the field of yoga. She has actively conducted workshops and training camps at national and international levels. Her 10-day online workshop series in March 2020, Yoga for Senior Citizens, in collaboration with the Ministry of Ayush, was applauded and acknowledged by thousands of people. Her pranayama online workshops have been a huge success in the past. Workshop participants love her style of teaching. She was recently awarded with the Swami Kuvalananda Yoga Puraskar in 2020 for her dedicated, committed, and extraordinary work in the field of yoga. So Sandhya ji, over to you. Do tell us a little bit about pranayama and its effects and how it will be useful to us in our daily life. Sandhya ji.
Namaste. See, as I have to speak on pranayam, importance of pranayam in our daily lives. Why we have to practice, what is the importance, and maybe 1 or 2 pranayam which is very beneficial for our everyday practice. So as we know, just now Sudhir ji has spoken about little bit of pranayam, like lots of health benefit, the spiritual benefit, all the traditional texts mention the benefits, the techniques of different pranayam. So let's see what the tradition says about that. So it cures the diseases of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. And also it balances the nadis. We have main important 3 nadis, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. So there is an imbalance, then we are unhealthy. If that balance is there, we are healthy. So Pingala is heat, sun, or more that vitality gives, and Ida is more constructive work. So it balances, and awakening of the Kundalini means energy which is in every one of us in dormant form. So main ultimate purpose of pranayam is spiritually awakening of that energy that activate. So when the balance comes, and also it tatakshiyate prakasha varanam, that removal of the ignorance, and we understand ourselves true nature, who we are. Mind get prepared for the dharana. So this is the text says, and also chitta prasadan means we get the happiness, very pleasant feeling, anand. So this is the traditional benefit. Of course, the lot of health benefits are there. So if we see, the pranayama stabilizes the hunger, and also it really activate it boosts the energy. And when there is a boosting of energy is there, then of course, then we can use that energy for our day-to-day activities. It improves the lungs capacity, it improves the stamina. So when the stamina is increased, again good for day-to-day activity. And also there's a lot research is there. Then when one does pranayama, there is a richer blood supply in our chest and abdomen. So due to that, the nerves ending, they get excited, and with that lot of health benefits are there. Pranayama increase the blood circulation in our cortex in the brain, and also it delay the degeneration of the brain cells. So it improve our health, and also especially the all systems benefit are there. They start working harmoniously, especially the endocrine glandular system and also nervous system, because the nerves are getting richer blood supply, more energy. Also there is research finding, when one does pranayama, there is a more of oxygen is available, because there is a less consumption of oxygen is there when we do pranayama. So there is a lot of oxygen is available for our other activities. So many more other benefits are there. So overall I can say, then this is a boon for us. This is a very good practice, whatever our sages has given us, then we can keep ourselves healthy and longer life. So let's understand what pranayam is. Nowadays popularity is increasing for pranayam. So is a combination of 2 words, pran and ayam. So pran is a breath, if in journal we say, and breath is life. So life, so we are consciously training to the breath in pranayam. So we are empowering, we are strengthening extending, enriching in pranayam. So, slowing down our breath in a conscious way. In pranayam we do, as we know that yavad sthito dehe vayu tavad jivanam uchyate maranam tasya nishkasinto tato vayun nirodhayet. So long as the vayu is working in our body, we are alive. If it goes out, one is dead. So the yogi says, do the practice of pranayam. So importance is a great. So pran is a vital energy, life force or life-giving principle, and ayam is a pause in the movement of inhalation and exhalation. So that means in very nutshell we can say pranayam is in three processes are there in pranayam: the control inhalation, control retention and control exhalation in a conscious way. So we are inhaling in a particular way, Purak, holding it Kumbhak and exhaling Rechak. So always we do Rechak longer than the inhalation. So traditionally we follow 1:2 ratio. If we are inhaling 1 second, exhale 2. If we are inhaling 5 seconds, exhale 10. Very simply. If one cannot maintain this ratio, very simple. First you check your exhalation, how long you can exhale. Then just take half of that your inhalation. So you can maintain this ratio. Initially we don't do Kumbhak, because Kumbhak, first you mastery on your inhalation and exhalation, then one can go for retention of the breath. So any pranayam, as you know, 8 pranayam are there. Before that we do the Nadi Shodhan pranayam, Anulom Vilom is a very balancing pranayam. So any pranayam, first step is we have to sit in proper way. As you know, Patanjali ji has very beautifully defined for the pranayam, Tasmin Sati Shwas Prashwas Yor Gati Vichedah pranayam. So Tasmin Sati means, speaks about the asana, how your posture should be. So your posture should be straight. You can choose any cross legs meditative pose. Even you can choose Sukhasana. But balance must be on your both hip bone, back straight. So what does it mean to straight or erect? You know, we have 3 curvature in our back. One is the cervical, then another one is lumbar, then in tailbone. So maintaining that curvature, that position is straight. Don't stretch too much and don't bend forward. Straight. Hands is in Gyan Mudra, index finger and thumb together, eyes closed, concentrating at one point. Even traditionally we do it, that gazing at the tip of your nose, very calm and quiet place, and with very controlling your senses, withdraw yourself. So this speaks about the Tasmin Sati. That means you well versed in this position, then you do the Shwas, Prashwas and holding. That is pranayam. Okay. So now you know about the asana posture. So let's see about the Nadi Shodhan pranayam. Also is called Anulom Vilom. This pranayam is a balancing pranayam. As you know, pranayama balances the nadis, Ida and Pingala. So here initially we do the Purak, means inhalation with left nostril, with the Ida nadi. Then we do the Rechak with the right nostril in double time. Then we inhale again with right and exhale with left twice. So this is one cycle of Anulom Vilom pranayam. So traditionally, it is like there, we have to make this mudra. This is very important, you know. First 2 fingers we are not using in pranayam. Because you know, this fingers is traditionally they say don't do it, because this fingers represent the ego, and this is we use for Ganesh Kriya. So this 2 fingers we fold it, and when we want to close our right nostril, we close our right nostril with the thumb. So this is our nose bone, and just below the nose bone we just lightly press our right nostril with the thumb. And these 2 fingers, we can just keep it on the bridge of the nose, very simply. Never place these fingers here, pressing in the Agnya Chakra. No, don't disturb the energy of your body, okay? Because this is the chakra. So just simply, even you can keep like that, or you can keep it here, just below little bit. So right nostril, same way you can close your left nostril with these fingers. So this is manipulation of your hands. And the other hand must be in Gyan Mudra on your knee. Okay. So then in Anulom Vilom, start with left inhalation, and you have to be very careful, because pranayam is a conscious breathing. You are slowing down your breathing. Normally in 1 minute we take 14 or 16 breaths in 1 minute. But when we do pranayama, only we take 4 or 5 times. So we are slowing down. So we are empowering our life span. We can see the turtle is a slow breather and dog is a very fast breather. So lifespan of a turtle is 150 years approximately, and for dog is only few years, 15 years. So really, with slowing down our breathing, we can control our mind, we can control the thoughts process. So in pranayama, there is a multiple gaseous exchange takes place. So let's understand nicely the concept of Purak means inhalation and Rechak. So you know, in pranayamic breathing, when we are doing inhalation, suppose we are starting in Anulom Vilom, yes, in Anulom Vilom we have to take left inhale. So when we start inhaling with the left nostril, the air is entering from our the nose, and we have to feel the touch of air in our nostrils, in our back of your throat, then up to the lungs. Then there is expansion is there, then there is expansion, then little bit expand the abdomen. Don't bulge out your abdomen too much. Please keep in a retracted form. Don't bulge out. So in pranayama, Purak is more thoracic, very less abdomen. Then when you exhale, then you exhale with right and exhaling and contracting your abdomen and shrinking your thorax. Then again inhaling with right, same way, fully expanding. Then again closing your right nostril and exhaling with left. In double time. So like that, for daily purpose, we can do 10 rounds of Anulom Vilom. Okay, very good pranayam to balance and this is the beauty of this, everyone can do this pranayama. Being as a nadi purifies with this pranayama, and neutral tendency, no heat generate, no coolness generate, is a in between. So safe for everyone we can do. And you remember, like you have to be conscious about like how many rounds you are doing. You can go little more, no problem. Slowly you be master on 5 rounds, then you can do 10 or 9, then go up to the 10. Even you can do twice a day. Traditionally they say we can do pranayama 4 times a day. But normally, but remember, do with empty stomach. Okay. And also there is another very important pranayam is again that is a neutral pranayam, is called Ujjayi. As we know, we have 8 pranayama: Surbhedan, Ujjayi, Sitkari, Shitali, Bhastrika, Bhramuri, Murcha and Plavani. So, Surbhedan, as you know, the Surya Nadi is a heating pranayam. So, normally if one is having too much cold and needed, then do. Otherwise, we can do in our daily practice Ujjayi pranayam. With the name, it indicates this pranayam is a sound producing pranayama. Here we produce the hissing sound, the sobbing sound from our glottis. So this is the important feature of this pranayam. So you have to close your glottis or epiglottis just a little, and when you closing little, then of course you are making the control in your respiratory passage. So due to the friction that the air will touch to your glottis and epiglottis, then there will be a sound is there while inhaling and while exhaling. That means while Purak and while Rechak. And ratio will be same 1:2, means 1 inhalation and twice exhalation. This is like in all pranayama, you have to exhale long, and slowly if you keep practicing every day, then you will find your lungs capacity will increase, the blood supply will increase, the oxygen will increase, because there is a less demand in our body, so we are reserving. Okay. Then in Ujjayi, just same way, you produce the sound with little bit contraction of this, and the same simple technique you can inhale with both nostril and exhale with both nostril. Traditionally we do inhalation with both and exhalation with left. Okay, but Swami Kuvalananda ji emphasized in the beginning, we can do inhale with both and exhale with both. So there is a partially closer. You can see inhalation is there, expanding the chest, expanding the little bit the collarbone, shoulder is also lifting a little. Okay, and when you exhale, then contracting, shrinking. And in pranayam, you should be full conscious. That means you are not doing only the shwashayam, only the breathing technique. It's a full conscious way. You must be observing each and every sensations while doing pranayam, while doing Purak and Rechak. Okay, so this you have to be very careful of, like, so initially maybe you can watch your round, then you can see your ratio, then you can be aware of your sensations. So one by one you can get mastery on that. Not in one day you can do everything all together. Okay, so slowly, gradually you can do it. I hope you understood the Ujjayi. See, Ujjayi pranayam, specific benefits are there for each and every pranayam. Like as for Ujjayi, very good pranayam for kantha dosh, means for throat. So good for thyroid, good for parathyroid, good for those who speaks too much, you know, like us teachers and the prophet, or like those are working in that too much speaking. For them this is a very good pranayama. Good for asthmatics, good for all kinds of this, even this pranayama when you are doing and meditating on that sound of Ujjayi, that means you are just relaxing your mind. Slowly, gradually you will get the very tranquil feeling, a peaceful feeling. Although all pranayama gives you the peace, that's why it is good for anxiety, depression, fear, and like all kinds of the problems. Nowadays, whatever we are having, we have to do this pranayama. So I think I can teach you one more pranayama, okay? So let's see one more pranayama, because this 2-3 pranayama is excellent and normally everyone wants to do, keep healthy, happy. So Bhramari pranayama is a sound of bee while doing Purak and Rechak both time. So while initially we do the sound in Rechak, in exhalation, okay. So the humming sound, the buzzing sound of black bee. So this you can produce this sound. Initially you have to imitate of the bee. Then you can just make the sound. You imagine, and you have to make it sound. You have to tune yourself actually. This is a very good pranayama. It's really awakening our internal sound. You know, we have two types of sound. One is the ahat and one is anahat. See, ahat sound we do with strucking. Just we clap even when I am speaking. This is ahat. Ahat, and anahat is going inside, okay, without that, okay. So here we are doing this sound of Bhramari while doing it. So let's inhale. Since I am teaching you simple technique, you don't use these hands, you don't do this, this is very advanced. Initially just sit quiet and do the sound of exhalation. You inhale with both nostrils. Very simple. You can do the like nasalized sound as we do the king, ring, this sound, and you merge with that, with the sound of, like if you have anyone snores, how one snores, then the small tongue lifted. So you just mix with this sound and just do it. So do every day 10 minutes Bhramari and see the benefit. There will be a blissful feeling you will achieve. Okay. So I think, thank you. Only these 3 pranayama you can do every day. Thank you so much.
Namaste, and thank you so much for this session and sharing this wisdom. Truly, though it's multiple ways, yoga has transformed many all over the world. And pranayama, of course, is so important for our daily life, like Sandaji had just mentioned. By way of regulated breath, asanas, which are postures, and other techniques, traditional yoga can help gain a holistic and healthy lifestyle. It's very, very important for our daily life. We now draw close to closing the session this morning. It has been an amazing session. I would like to call upon Mr. Venkateshan, Regional Director, India Tourism, to please say a few words.
Namaste. And in fact, on the behalf of India Tourism Mumbai, I would like to take this opportunity to formally also extend my vote of thanks. You know, my sincere thanks to really first to the Almighty God for making this today's event a resounding success. In fact, with the blessing and grace, it went seamless, and we were able to make this event what it was today. And I hope all those who have attended would have really benefited. In fact, I also extend a really hearty vote of thanks to Subodhji and Sudhirji, who spared time from their busy schedule. I know tomorrow is the International Day of Yoga, and the Kaivalya Dhama is a major, would have planned major activities. So they came together today, and we had the opportunity to hear their thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage us in our future events also. In fact, Sudhirji and Subodhji, you are thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. In fact, my gratitude to Sandhya ji for taking the session on pranayama and sharing her lessons on pranayama. In fact, I will fail if I don't thank our partners here, the He Project, Rushali and Anusha, who had worked hard. And I know it's almost a month that we have been going to and forth and getting it done. And especially thanks to the technical team from Kaivalya Dhamma and all the participants who today joined virtually in the Yoga Yatra, the, uh, the way of life today. And my special thanks to one and all for joining. And finally, of course, I will fail if I don't thank Malti, Swati, Chandar, and Vaishnavi and all from my publicity team in the office for working hard to make all the activities of IDY a big success. Thank you once again, everybody who have joined in today, and I wish the best of luck to the tourism industry also on the eve of the International Day of Yoga.
Yeah, thank you,
For a
Mr.
journey.
Venkatesan. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank you.
for that.
Thank you.
We also really, Anusha and I enjoyed working on this. The session has been really, truly enlightening. Today, there is an ever increasing need for immunity and a balanced, healthy lifestyle with the aim of promoting a holistic well-being. This virtual tour by India Tourism Mumbai on IDY 2021 presents the accessibility and appreciation of an Indian Yoga Institute of global repute, such as Kaivalya Dhamma. So very much within our reach in Maharashtra itself. There are many more such founding yoga schools in our country. So in the current event, India Tourism Mumbai's effort is to highlight and promote wellness tourism once destinations unlock and are ready for travel. So we applaud the entire India Tourism Mumbai team and for this benefiting initiative to find the journey inward and right here in India. So thank you everyone. It is time to show gratitude as this Yoga Yatra also comes to an end only as the beginning for many such more yatras. So we at the Deep Project work towards making knowledge of India's rich and ancient wisdom accessible to the world. We engage with authoritative experts globally to offer audiences meaningful experiences and mindful deliberation. We are thankful to India Tourism Mumbai and the entire team for having us on board this journey. I would like to especially thank Subodhji and Sudhirji and Sandhyaji and of course the entire faculty at Kaivalya Dhamma for the great job that they have done in the area of yoga, and we hope that the legacy continues forever. We are very grateful to Kaivalya Dhamma's team, the technical team especially, for the smooth execution of this event. So thank you all of you. Happy International Day of Yoga 2021. Be with yoga and be with home. Be at home. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.